The Minister of Culture of Peru, Leslie Ortega, warned that she could order the closure of Machu Picchu in the face of protests against privatization. In France, the siege of Paris continues as farmers block key highways around the capital city for the second day in a row. And in Lebanon, citizens demonstrated in front of the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees against the decision of several countries to suspend funding to the agency. In Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. In Peru, the Minister of Culture, Leslie Ortega, warned that she could order the closure of Machu Picchu in the face of protests against privatization. After 4 days of protests against the handover of the iconic Inca site to a private company, the executive refuses to dialogue and anticipates more extreme measures. The minister demands that the strike and the seizure of the train tracks cease in order to sit down to dialogue. However, the social collective and citizens who maintain the protest assured that at times they have yielded to the proposals of the executive, they ended up being deceived. The head of culture assured in an interview to national television that they will evaluate the request for the closure of the citadel. The Minister of Culture added that the government will only the strike is lifted, which is causing millions of dollars in losses.
Today we are going to have another meeting as executive in the group we have for the Machu Picchu issue, and we will also evaluate the requests made by this group. Among them is to close the cultural center, and that would be very painful for everyone. But well, we will evaluate it, and we will also consider, as I said, the proposal of the company, of the supplier, and we will have to see how that goes, because what I think we all want is modernization, is work, it's economic recovery, especially for our beloved Machu Picchu.
In Bolivia, Vice President Tevichoque Huanca confirms an important agreement reached in the Plurinational Parliament to guarantee judicial elections. The Plurinational Assembly has created a bicameral and multi-partisan commission that will work for time and matter a consensual law. The agreement, mediated by the Vice Presidency of the country, was reached this Monday and sets a next meeting for February 1st. The different political forces of the Bolivian parliament celebrate this achievement and believe that it is an important step to guarantee the independence of the justice system.
Taking into account all the contribution of other initiatives presented today that are within the framework of the political constitution of the state and the Plurinational Constitutional Declaration 0049/2023 to subsequently resume the legislative process.
The President of Ecuador, Daniel Noboa, signed this Monday the decree ordering the repatriation of foreign prisoners. The President ordered the state agency in charge of the penitentiary system to immediately process the return of the prisoners to their respective countries. This decision arises in the midst of a strong crisis of insecurity and violence that since the government of former President Lenin Moreno has had a drastic worsening in the prisons. According to the most recent census, 10% of convicts in Ecuadorian prisons are foreigners. The President claims that this measure will alleviate the crisis that in less than a month has already left 20 police officers dead and more than 200 prison guards held in detention. In El Salvador, civil organizations, citizens, and workers of temporary electoral bodies denounced after the last electoral simulation that technical and logistical problems persist. This second simulation was scheduled to take place in 95% of the voting centers, but in 2 of them it could not be carried out. In others, problems persisted related to the transmission of data and the scanning of documents. The President of the Supreme Electoral Tribunal, Dora Martinez, acknowledged logistical failures, assuring that many of them were related to the transfer of the members of the center. As for the technical ones, the experts of the electoral body related to the connectivity of capacity. The President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, revealed that the Barbados Agreement disqualification review mechanism was drafted by some representative of the political opposition. The head of state emphasized that the current disqualifications of opposition politicians respond to serious crimes committed against the country, as well as their request for sanctions and military intervention. President Maduro also stated that despite conspiracies against him, he continues to support peace talks. Maduro emphasized that neither the oligarchy nor any one family will determine the democratic future of the country.
Something called the mechanism was signed. More or less, they call it that way. Right, Celia? The mechanism was a way to solve a conflict that the right wing itself had about people who have committed serious crimes against the peace of the Republic, who have asked for sanctions, who have asked for invasion, or people who have committed crimes of corruption, that have measures of disqualification by the institutions of Venezuela. Well, they made a tantrum, and we said, to solve your tantrum, we are going to sign a mechanism. The mechanism, Karen, I can tell you here, between you and I, that the mechanism was drafted by the opposition itself. What was signed as a mechanism for the solution of that conflict, we signed it. But it was drafted by them, and they brought it drafted. Jorge Rodriguez consulted me, and I told him to sign it. They proposed to go to the political administrative chamber with some legal resources, and the political administrative chamber would decide. They proposed it. I did not do it. Jorge did not do it.
President Maduro ratified that there will be presidential elections this year despite right-wing conspiracies.
It is not the oligarchy. It is not the surnames that will determine the democratic future of Venezuela. I can assure the people of Venezuela, no one, no surname, no conspiracy, no Antonio Ledesma will take away your right to go to the 2024 presidential elections, come rain or shine.
The head of state added that the war with Guyana is an alternative to achieve peace between the regions.
War is not an option. War is not an alternative. Who wants war between Guyana and Venezuela? The United States of America. Who wants war between the United States and Venezuela? The United Kingdom or Great Britain. And we would never give them that pleasure.
Let's take now a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Well, the story is coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. The President of Cuba, Miguel Díaz-Canel, informed on Monday at the first Council of Ministers of 2024 about the national tours and the processes that will accompany the implementation of the new economic measures. The head of state gave an account of the activities that will be developed for the implementation of the government's projections to correct distortions and boost the economy. With this objective in mind, he addressed the work priorities for this year, making special emphasis on the need for the measures designed to have spaces to encourage popular participation, for which reason a process of political debate will be carried out throughout the country.
First, we have to convince of why we are applying these measures and why they are necessary. They are necessary measures that cannot be postponed. They correct deep distortion and structural deviations that hinder the development of the economy. They are measures oriented to the benefit of the people. Comrade, if we grow in the economy, if we boost the economy, if we depend less on imports, if we export more, if we increase the number of visitors that the country needs, who is that for? It is for the population. It is oriented to the population. If we are looking to maintain greater amplitude and consolidate the sustainability of the social conquest, for whom is that for? That is for the people.
President Miguel Díaz-Canel categorically rejected any insinuation that the measures implemented to boost the economy in 2024 are neoliberal.
Tell me which neoliberal package in the world begins by increasing the income of workers in two sectors of society, health and education. Therefore, this is not a neoliberal package. We have applied of all the measures. We have applied one. Who it is harmed? Nobody. It is a recognition to the sectors that have the most important functions in society, which is to guarantee life, health, and education to a nation.
Police intervention in the protests that are shaking Haiti left one person dead in the city of Juana Méndez on the border with the Dominican Republic and several injured. This Monday, two protests coincided in the country, a strike called by several sectors against violence and blockades to demand the departure of the Prime Minister, Ariel Henry, and a second one that ended in strong confrontations between police and demonstrators. In three localities of the country, one of them Fort Liberté, there were barricades and riots which the police tried to disperse with tear gas and gunshots. The government claims that they are trying to paralyze the country, while local organizations seek to hold the current administration responsible for their serious humanitarian crisis that is facing Haiti. And we go now to Argentina, where the national government suffered a new judicial setback regarding its emergency decree as its appeal against the provisional suspension of the labor chapter in favor of the aviation personnel was rejected. The judges Mario Ferra and Hector Guisado dismissed the appeal of the ruling party, ratifying the jurisdiction of the labor courts in dispute, which the government had tried to refute. In this sense, the judges alluded to similar cases presented by Argentina's main workers' unions, CGT and CTA, already taken by the same courts. Milei's administration insists on its right and need to rule by decree, claiming to have the necessary popular support after his electoral victory in November. Despite criticism received by constitutionalists and the multiple judicial setbacks it has faced in the past weeks. The siege of Paris is underway as French farmers block key highways around the capital city for the second day in a row Tuesday. The farmers threatened to block the major wholesale market of Rungis pending the announcement of new measures promised by the government. The Prime Minister, Gabriel Attal, is expected to deliver further announcements in an attempt to calm the anger of farmers in Europe's third largest agricultural power and the sixth largest in the world. Demonstrators began on Monday afternoon a siege of the capital for an unlimited duration after 11 days of protests. The sector is calling for measures to address falling incomes, low pensions, inflation caused by environmental standards, and foreign competition. The farmers' protests in France derive from a number of national and regional reasons. Some of their concerns, like competition from cheaper imports and environmental rules, are shared by producers in the rest of the European Union, while other issues such as food price negotiations are more specific to France. Farmers argue that a push by the government and retailers to bring down food inflation has left many producers unable to cover high costs for energy, fertilizers, and transport. Moreover, they also reject a government plan to phase out a tax break for farmers on diesel fuel as part of a wider energy transition policy. Another contentious point is the possible agreement between EU and the Mercosur, which European farmers argue would lead to unfair competition. In this context, European Commission spokesman has stated that deal on the trade agreement is not sealed, but negotiations continue.
What I can say is that at present the Commission's analysis is that the conditions for the concluding negotiations with Mercosur are not quite there.
On Tuesday, the Russian air defense system shot down at least 21 Ukrainian drones in several regions of the country. The Russian Defense Ministry reported that 11 of them were intercepted over the territory of Crimea, 5 more in the Belgorod Oblast, 3 in Bryansk, 1 in Kaluga, and 1 more in Tula. According to Governor Vladislav Sapsha, the wreckage of the destroyed drone on the outskirts of the city of Kaluga fell on the roof of a non-residential technical building where no injuries or serious incidents have been confirmed. The situation was the same in the waters near the Belbek airport and in the Navlinsky district. In Sri Lanka, police used tear gas and water cannons to disperse an opposition march in Colombo on Tuesday to protest the island nation's economic difficulties, which is going through its worst economic crisis. Demonstrators belonging to the main opposition United People's Power Party accused President Ranil Wickremesinghe's administration of imposing an excessive burden on the population by increasing taxes, electricity and fuel, which has led to a sharp rise in the cost of living. Police used tear gas and water on 2 occasions to disperse protesters as they attempted to overstep areas allowed for protest. Sri Lanka is facing the worst economic crisis in its history and is under a 4-year bailout program from the International Monetary Fund. Sri Lanka's police used tear gas and water cannons to disperse the opposition march.
Because the government is not concerned about the sufferings of the people. People are unable to have their meals. They have no money to pay the electricity bills. They have no money to buy the necessary equipment for their children to go to school. So the whole country is suffering. But government seems to not understand the real situation in the country. So we expect the people to rise. The next election, the election year has already come. Next year, this year, people must think differently and take the correct decisions.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Following short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the south. On Tuesday, authorities in Palestine confirmed that the attacks launched since October 7th by the Israeli occupation army in Gaza have left a total of 26,792 Palestinians dead. In this way, the health ministry's daily report also notified that the number of injuries is close to 66,000, while on the other hand, the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, the World Health Organization, and the Palestinian government asserted that due to the Israeli attacks, 360,000 residential buildings have been destroyed or damaged, along with 378 schools. Authorities also reported that 14 of 35 hospitals are partially functioning. It should be noted that according to official data, 15 people die every hour in Gaza, and 6 of them are children. Also in Palestine, where the Ministry of Health on Tuesday announced that Israel continues to assault health centers after a brigade of the occupation army assaulted the emergency department of a hospital and executed 3 patients while they were sleeping. In this regard, the health authorities added they recorded the assault through security cameras, which shows Israeli soldiers disguised as Palestinian medical personnel inside the facility of the IBN Sina hospital in Jenin. In turn, the Tel Aviv forces denied these accusations and claimed that the men were members of a Hamas terrorist cell. In the meantime, the Ministry of Health appealed again to the UN General Assembly, international institutions, and human rights bodies to stop the Zionist attacks on health services. On Tuesday, several international organizations announced their rejection of the decision of some donor countries to suspend aid to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, known as UNRWA. In this context, more than 20 organizations, including Save the Children and the Oxford Committee for Famine Relief, issued a joint statement of support for the UN program, warning that the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza will increase with this measure. In this sense, these organizations also warned that UNRWA is the largest humanitarian aid agency in Gaza and will not be replaced by other agencies that are deployed in Palestine. In this sense, they also stated that it is shameful that donor countries such as the United States, Germany, Switzerland, Canada, and the United Kingdom suspended funds in the inhuman conditions that the Gaza people are living in. In Lebanon, dozens of people demonstrated Tuesday in front of the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees in Beirut against the decision of several countries to suspend funding to the agency after Israel accused some staff of involvement in the October 7 Hamas bombing. At least 12 key donor countries will suspend funding to that agency following Israel's accusation. For its part, UNRWA fired several staff and promised a thorough investigation into the allegations. UNRWA is responsible for providing humanitarian aid and protection to Palestinian refugees in Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, the Gaza Strip, and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Lebanon hosts some 250,000 Palestinian refugees. The World Health Organization warned that the funding dispute was distracting attention from the humanitarian disaster in the Palestinian territory. In China, the government classified the Middle East situation as highly complex and sensitive and urged restraint of parties involved after President Joe Biden said the U.S. shall respond to the overnight drone strike killing 3 U.S. troops and injured dozens in northeast Jordan. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said at a daily briefing when asked about the incident that countries concerned should avoid being caught in a vicious cycle of retaliation and prevent further escalation of tensions in the region. On Sunday, U.S. President Joe Biden blamed Iran-backed militias for the first U.S. fatalities after a month of strikes by such groups against U.S. forces across the Middle East. Since the war in Gaza began on October 7th, Iranian-backed militias have struck U.S. military installations in Iraq more than 60 times and in Syria more than 90 times with a mix of drones, rockets, mortars, and ballistic missiles.
The current situation in the Middle East is highly complex and sensitive, and we hope that all parties concerned will exercise calm and restraint, strengthen dialogue and communication, avoid being caught in vicious cycle of retaliation, and prevent further escalation of tensions in the region.
A 5.7 earthquake has shaken the town of Icol in Postcam County, northwest China. According to the United States Geological Services, the earthquake movement was registered on Tuesday at around 5:27 local time, with an intensity of approximately 6 degrees. So far, the local authorities have not reported any injuries or significant material damage. According to the Geological Service, the epicenter appears to be located in Icol and could be felt in the limits of Kyrgyzstan. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.